single most important thing in my life are my kids. They're the joys of my life. My name is Chris LaBelle. I am a native of California, born in Pasadena. I'm 45 years old. I was actually overseas on a satellite communications project in North Africa in Algeria. Now, Algeria was a very hostile environment, and that was back in about 92, 93. The stress factors were, it was a very difficult project because it was 35 stations in the Sahara, and that's a very harsh environment. Up until that point, I thought I could manage any project anywhere in the world and get it done. But I ran up against a brick wall, and that was pretty much myself. It was like a rubber band. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt something just snap. The psychosis just got worse and worse to the point where I was quite delusional and just lost all touch with reality. I was hospitalized a number of times. I thought my life was threatened. At one point in time, I attempted suicide and was hospitalized for an overdose. It runs in my mother's side of the family. My brother, my oldest brother, Ted, he ended up taking his own life when he was 21. The next person to take their life was my aunt, Kathy. The hospitalization was very depressing. I mean, I think I needed it. I think at the point, you know, I was suicidal and things of that nature. But what happened was, it was really the discharge. They couldn't put me back together well enough to really discharge me to an environment that was safe. And so I was discharged, and the burden became on my family.
It was tough. He had the basement, he had a place, but it was not going to get him well.
I did recover on around the 10th year, 11th year, you know, the symptoms subsided, but it was a very painful recovery.
It took over 10 years for Chris to recover, but then he quickly relapsed.
I had a very severe case of anxiety with my employer. It was so severe I could not stay in the building more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes at a time.
It became very apparent to us quickly, I mean, even before Chris brought it to our attention as well, that, you know, he's losing focus.
Becoming sick the second time, you know, faced with a possible hospitalization and a long-term recovery like I was before, I was really, really depressed. I said, is there anywhere, any place, anything other than a hospital? And that's when they came up with Skyland.
Chris came to us voluntarily. He was getting sick and he recognized it. His new doctor now thinks he has a bipolar disorder with psychotic features. Well, we definitely wanted to get him back to functioning to where he was before, which was working full-time and taking care of his family.
Skyland is designed for long-term recovery. Skyland is a good environment for you to work on your symptoms. For 5 days a week, I would come into Skyland, and they gave me a structured environment.
I think the one thing he and I have worked on very diligently is identifying triggers, you know, things that would trigger his symptoms, and then ways to cope with it.
They gave me a place to socialize, a safe place to meet other people that were experiencing similar things and develop friendships, so that was a big factor. The third was techniques such as journaling, just self-affirmations, things of this nature.
It's certainly an honor to experience his recovery with him. He's always been very determined and never gave up hope, and that's really a key ingredient in his recovery.
It took, yeah, probably 18 months of psychosis and 9 years of recovery, so that's, you know, 10, 11 years into the span of 1 year. So it's really a remarkable achievement when you sit where I'm sitting.
I'm not worried as much. I mean, I don't worry about losing a brother now, and it's because of Skyland.
I think the things that Skyland has helped more than anything was that whole reintegration back into the workforce.
One thing that I want to emphasize about Chris and his success is how hard he worked. In that, you know, if he was not as engaged as he was, if he was not as enthusiastic about learning, he never would have been successful.
You know, someone once told me it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up.
My brother is a great example of being able to come out the other side.
I'm very optimistic about my future. My children are thriving, and I'm doing well at work. I love what I do. I love the job. I love the company. I feel like I'm adding to the bottom line, and I feel very good about the future.